Basslines.
Just the bass.
I'm Adam Annis.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Advice and inspiration for music and life coming at you.
You know I love the new tagline. You know it.
I love it too. I'm still having to read it, which is a little embarrassing, but it's going to be coming off of my silver tongue shortly.
You know what else is coming at us today is our sponsor, Musescore.
Musescores.
We love Musescore around here. Not only is it by far the best free music notation software that you can get right now, but they also have this huge score library at musescore.com. 20,000 new scores uploaded every month, and You'll Hear It listeners can save 65%. Just follow the link below and save 65% off of a pro Musescore subscription. Unbelievable.
It's if you want to go pro. You can come in at the free level to check it out.
That's right.
And the notation program available for all the platforms is wonderful, and
Totally
it's free.
free.
And don't be fooled by the free part, because it is not a bloated piece of crap like there are some other things. Sorry, should I not have said that? My bad.
No, I mean, you say what you want.
Am I allowed to tell the truth?
Yeah, we've been recommending Musescore here at Open Studio for years. So there's no secrets there that we
But
love.
a lot of times folks think, oh, it's free, it's lower quality. This is a quality piece of software, and it's a great way to get into the notation game without getting with these huge bloated programs. And then you get the community side of it, through the sheet music and the pro account if you want to go there. It's a free download to get started, and you can look at, I was looking up some Monk scores, and a bunch of people in the community have contributed, just even some of the obscure Monk tunes, really good quality arrangements and transcriptions and stuff. It's just a great meeting place.
That's right. So follow the link below for your 65% discount on musescore.com, the pro subscription. Check it out.
Yep.
Today,
we're
going low. They
going
go high,
low.
we go low.
That's right. We go way low.
Wait, I don't know
and
if
it's all about the bass.
It is all about
line.
The bass. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, this is exciting because we both like to play bass lines. We like bass players. We like listening to the bass.
Yeah.
And I think that this,
Steady Eddies bass players are. Steady Eddies.
Steady Eddies. They're great. But I think this is important, certainly for pianists. But, we're always talking about horn players, guitar players, vocalists, drummers. It doesn't matter what you play. You want to be getting some piano together or some guitar maybe so that you can really work out your harmonic concepts. And sometimes folks will overlook learning bass lines because they're like, I've got a great bass player I play with. Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Even if you're playing with Christian McBride or Ron Carter every night, you still want to learn bass lines because you want to know how to play with them.
Yeah.
Just like you want to learn. If you want to play with a great drummer, learn how to at least ding, 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 and get that hi-hat, a little backbeat. What it feels like to do that enhances the experience of playing with great bass players or drummers or whatever so much. You know what to play when they're playing what they're doing. And then we're in so many solo situations where we need to draw at least elements of this, even if we're not straight up walking a bass line all the time.
Oh, yeah. This is completely practical for every pianist to learn a little bit of how to create some bass lines. So let's talk about sort of the major points that we're going to talk about here. That's the two feel, right? The walking bass line.
Yeah.
And then we'll get into some other grooves, maybe some bossa, maybe some funk, stuff like that.
Okay.
But really, it all starts for me, and I don't know how you feel about this, although I think I do. It starts with the two feel. And what do we mean by the two feel? We mean that half note feel, right? Big, beautiful half notes is how our buddy Ruben Rogers describes the two feel, right? So it's not a 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a walking 4 feel, right? The half note feel, or the 2 feel, is more like 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the basis, pun intended, for all of jazz. Actually, like that entire swing feel. The 4 feel came after the 2 feel. The 2
Are you
feel
saying
was
that you're
first.
going to want to base everything you do above and beyond that based upon? Okay.
I'm saying they go low, we go high. No. So no, this is based. If you can kind of like get a good 2 feel together, I think it's easier than to do walking bass lines. It's easier to get some stride things together. Like the 2 feel really is the basis of that. But I want you to consider, first of all, dear listener, that what we don't want with the 2 feel to start is this.
Ooh, no bueno.
That's not how it feels, right? Big,
That makes
beautiful.
me play like that.
That's right.
You
want
forced me to do that.
big, beautiful half notes. So nice, like 3. So even before we go, like, what are my note choices? Just like know that connected half notes, right?
Yep.
Not a quarter note and a quarter rest, but connected half notes are really the foundation of everything we're doing.
Right. And, the first time you played before you did the funny boom, boom, but the very first one, which is a little bit more kind of medium up, I was starting to clap. And what this is the way you were playing this, and this is the way we're encouraging everybody to hear it and then to play it and to practice it and to interact with this great two feel, is there's an implication as we play these simple half notes of the backbeat of the 2 and 4 actually. So and really you don't have to do anything more than understand and kind of internalize what that groove is. You can do it by clapping along, by listening, by tapping your feet, or just feeling it inside of you.
Yeah.
That's enough, but it actually can come out because your spacing is right. And then you did a few little flourishes.
Yeah.
But even when they're not there. So on the 4, of course, we've got the chance to actually play that. But when you're playing the 2 feel, especially anything kind of medium tempo and up, but even like walking ballad or 2 feel on a ballad, it's the same thing. You've got to feel the notes you're not playing, but not, we're not doing that. We know that. But so like I always like to think about it as something physical as you get used to it. Of course, you can, you don't want to be like a nervous tick, but yeah. And then the listener, as you playing that kind of thing, whether the drums are playing or not, or dang, 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 like the feel should be there. You hear a great bass player walking a 2 feel, even if they're doing it on their own. When the drums come in, it already has that feeling. It just kind of solidifies.
That's right. So let's talk a little bit about note choices here on the 2 feel. The first thing that I think of when I think about what are my most optimal note choices, what do bass players actually play?
The flat second, right?
Flat second is not right. That would be
dang. I was so close though.
No, but you know what I think you really want to start with is the triad. I think we want to be root bass, right? Remember, you're holding down the low end. So there's no reason to go away from the root.
Yeah.
But if we want to connect from roots to roots, like you don't want to do too much of just like, right? If it's just all roots, it gets a little boring.
What happened to the fat half notes, man? Why you got to make it sound bad with your all roots?
I can connect them.
It's still bad.
But if we add in the 3rd or the 5th as an option to kind of connect our roots, just those 3 notes on each chord, that gets us a long way. Check it out. 1, 2, 3. Right, so just using the notes of the triad. So here on a B flat blues on a B flat 7 chord, just having B flat, D, and F as my available notes gets me almost as far as you need to go. Then you can start adding things like the 7th is a next good option. The flat second is way up there as far as my options go, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
So, all right, so this leads us to a good place in that, we have these note choices, but what if we're doing...
Oh, no. See,
I'm not putting them together correctly. I'm using the notes you said.
Yeah.
But I'm not telling a story with
When
it.
the chord changes, in general, the root is your strongest option. Followed a little bit further back by the 5th.
Right.
Is like the next strongest option. Followed a little bit further back by the 3rd, in my opinion.
Agreed. So I'm just gonna shift a little bit here, still on the 2 feel, to all the things you are, away from the blues, just to show that it's kind of the same thing. And now we want to start setting ourselves up for success on that walking 4 by thinking about the root in the 5th and maybe the 3rd, 7th. But starting to think melodically, because a bass line is always a melody. We don't want to forget that. So you want to tell you a little story. So if we look at...
So you're doing some chromatic approaches from
chromatic,
above or below, which is totally acceptable.
Legal.
So it's legal in most states.
Yes, please.
That's right. No, that's a great strategy to deploy though. Is some kind of chromatic approach always sounds good from above or below.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so then if you think about like a rhythm change or something that typically you play a little faster, still with the two feel, you can almost go all root.
Yeah, rhythm changes you can go all roots, no doubt.
And it works.
Root or fifth too can work really well.
Yeah. And then when you're adding in your step and notes, and this is going to take us right to the walking four, we're connecting the dots, right?
So yeah, this is where you can kind of evolve from the two feel to the four feel, is this idea of connecting the dots. So if we go back to like all the things you are, right, doing these little, throwing quarter notes in. So, and I'm just literally doing diatonic scales or chromatic approaches, quarter notes leading up to like 2 quarter notes before our target, right?
Right.
And then you can practice just keeping it going, right? Now you have a walking bass line.
A lot of like.
There you go.
Oh, sorry. We're having fun. Come on. We got a lot of bass lines to go through. So if we go from F minor to B flat, whereas with the two foot, not a 5-1. Here we can go. So in connecting the dots, we want to usually avoid is.
Yeah.
So we got adding one chromatic so that we get there on the one.
Or you could go above. Yeah. Or diatonically.
But not too many times in a row.
No. And then once you're walking here, now we actually repeating some notes, doing some Ray Brownisms.
Yeah, especially if you go like if you're up high, then when you go high and then you go low, stay low and then walk your way up.
Yeah, you go high and you go low.
Yeah. And this really brings us to, I think, an important point is if you want to learn great bass lines,
here we go.
Don't just listen to a couple of knuckleheads like us.
Please.
But thank you for being here.
Yeah.
If you're getting some out of this, like and subscribe.
Hey!
But learn some bass lines. Bass lines are great to transcribe. You mentioned Ray Brown.
Transcribe some Ray Brown.
You got Paul Chambers, Percy Heath, Christian McBride, Reuben Rogers. Or just read through some transcriptions because you'll start to see the inner logic.
That's right.
Because this, we're keeping it somewhat basic, but that whole thing.
You can get very creative with very simple concepts here. So let's just recap what we have so far. So we have the two feel, which is a half note feel, big, beautiful half notes, right? We're going to lean on the root. Anytime the chord changes, like 90% of the time, you want it to be the root until you get a little more comfortable with adding in things like the fifth and the third, which brings us to our next point. The triad, the notes of the triad, and sometimes the seventh of the chord are kind of our most leaned on notes here. And then we can connect the dots using things like chromatic approaches, diatonic approaches, scales, things like that, until we're up at a 4 feel, right? At a walking bass line feel.
Yeah, and one thing, just to jump back real quick to the two field, we're not going to be able to obviously cover every way to play every kind of bass line, but
no, let's do it.
Important to be thinking about on your own is the different tempos. The general principles will stay the same, say on a two field. Like if you're like one, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. But you're going to have more eighth note triplets generally because you have more space for them. So it's like
at the slower tempos, and you can, you're gonna have a bit of a hoppier, right? Exactly.
And you're gonna hear those as you start to learn these and check out bass players.
Totally. Just like if you were playing a solo, right? Like keep going. Like you're in that regard, you're not always going like. That's just not how we're soloing over that kind of stuff. Like
no bueno. Yeah, because
triplets
you've got
come
that
in.
space in there.
Got that
So it's not
space.
that you have to do that all the time, but you want to learn that and kind of introduce that to your bassline repertoire slowly if you're new to this.
A couple of advanced things that you might consider as you, if you're a more advanced player or you're getting more into this, are just some little ghost notes. And this is something you can take by transcribing bass players too. So again, if we're doing this, like having these, just it doesn't actually matter what the note is. Like bass players will often use like an open string to just ghost something.
Yep.
So like. Just that little,
a little grace note, a little ghost note,
little ghost note. It could be a E if you want to get real authentico with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But a little grace note can add a lot of feel to what you're doing, and then some spickety-doos. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Just down an arpeggio, essentially. So like again. That's just an E flat triad. Assuming the bass player has an orchestral extension on his bass.
Right. If not, do not go below the E. It's not allowed. Yeah, and I mean things you can do too with when you go down to arpeggio. That's kind of like just a straight. But you've also got that's a good one. You know, augmented. Or, sharp 11 kind of.
You could also. You could do a little chromatic thing before the lowest note. So. Right.
Nice. A little above action.
Totally.
Nice. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, 2-feel, 4-feel. Let's talk about some other kinds of bass lines because I always like to.
I always swing. I don't do anything.
You're so traditional. Such a traditionalist.
No, I don't really
so
care
dogmatic.
about the other feels.
But I like to think about other feels really in line, all of these together because they're so connected, especially as far as bass lines. It's just different techniques. So if you think about something like a funk groove, and what's the most iconic, one of the most iconic, Chameleon.
I thought you were going to do Kenny G's Songbird. Okay, no, this is good too, though.
Or like 2-feel. I mean, okay, it doesn't work great, but you know what I'm saying.
No,
well, but it's there. It's the same thing, kind of. You know? So with funk bass lines, the other similarities are that, like when we play solo piano with a 2-feel or 4-feel, we want to learn how to play them, but we want to learn how to leave them and come back into them because we don't want to be saddled with only doing that for a whole type of thing. Same with the funk bass line. So, but first you've got to really get it right.
Well, yeah, the funk bass line, you're going to want to spend some time locking it in, just like you were a bass player in a funk band.
Right.
That's got to feel good first.
And a lot of these funk bass lines are based upon subdivisions as opposed to like an 8th note triplet to actual 16th notes. So if you think about boo doo boo tak gang gang and so all the syncopations are not all of them, but many of them are lying within that subdivision that are 16th notes. So you've got so the up is on the up of the 16th, not on the up of the 8th or the up of an 8th note triplet. And you want to nail it because a lot of times people play this and they're like, especially when they play it on piano, they're like,
oh, that's the worst. How bad does that feel? Well, here's another advantage if you subdivide that 16th note, like when you do that, now you're getting ahead of the game, right? Because now when you want to add stuff to the bass line, like whatever you add in there is going to be in that pocket, right? And it's
we need to add anything to this one though?
We don't really, but if
maybe
you
another one we might.
But let's say you were putting some chords in there with it, right?
Yeah.
Having that 16th note subdivision, now you're doing what drummers and bass players do, which is they do these subdivisions so that they can remain in the pocket the whole time.
Right.
Don't be the cocktail pianist playing the chameleon with the bad time.
I know. I was trying to do it. I can't.
You're like, I tried to play it, feeling terrible, but it didn't work. I couldn't actually do it.
And look, on all these bass lines, the trick is to, in funk bass lines, walking forward, really any bass lines, they're great exercises to learn them and then improvise or play the melody over them for independence of the hands.
Oh, absolutely.
So like right there, check that out. Now the melody's on. That's one,
Yeah,
but the
yeah,
melody is
yeah.
bing, ka.
Yep.
That upbeat of the 16th note, the end of the Andy and of 4. What would you call it?
Yeah, yeah.
So I hear a
The
lot of people
E-end.
playing stuff like. No, it's not right. No, not what you did. What I did.
No,
'Cause
yeah.
I went.
No, that's
So that's a great little exercise for independence of the hands. Yeah, these are great ones. Independence of the hands, getting that kind of funk beat. Y'all got that. Y'all got that. What other grooves could we do?
Well, let's do one more. Before we do, though, check out openstudiojazz.com for all of our courses. That's what we do around here.
That's right. That's right.
We make jazz piano courses and other jazz courses. Check out the Piano Access Pass. Become a member today. It's easily the best value you can get for jazz education online.
And Piano Access Pass is great because that gives you access to all of our piano courses. But I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, that gives you access to fundamentals of jazz bass. Ooh, maybe it doesn't. No, I think it does.
The Piano Access Pass?
Yeah.
That's the All Access
That's the
Pass.
All Access Pass.
Piano Access Pass is only piano,
Only
but it's
piano.
okay. We have like dozens of piano courses.
But if you want to go next level and upgrade to the All Access Pass,
Yeah.
and you might think I'm not a bass player, but you're a bassline player, that's what you're here for.
right. Yeah, yeah.
And Christian does some great concepts that can be applied to piano
fundamentals
as well.
of jazz bass
at the
and,
piano, actually.
and Ruben Rogers Jazz Bassline Basics, which is
Yeah.
actually really great for second instruments. So one secret little bassline thing we can do is something that I learned from our mutual friend Romero Lubombo, and that is the actual way to play bossa nova bass lines.
Ooh,
Now,
right.
everybody knows that it's this. Except it's not.
Right. Yeah.
So the bossa nova, right? Brazilian, beautiful Brazilian style, one of the most popular styles of music
Yes.
all over the world.
Floating along the beach. I
And
love it.
somewhere in the 60s, it got into circles and it got into those rhythm patches on home organs and digital keyboards that
Casio tone, porta
yeah,
sound,
little
perhaps.
Casios and
Yeah.
porta sounds and Wurlitzer organs, that this was it.
Stop damaging our ears with that nonsense. Show them the way it goes.
So the way it goes is, this is all based around the interpretation of the samba on the acoustic guitar and slowed down in the 50s in Brazil, right? So
We talked about doing a little quiet nights.
Oh,
Would
yeah,
it
let's
work
do a
over
little
that?
quiet notes. Yeah, quiet nights. So the cool thing is it's a lot simpler than that,
Right.
and it's a lot easier. Again, this is a two feel. This is big, beautiful half notes. All you want to do is use that root and that fifth for the most part, or just the root and the root. Even more so than a two feel swing thing, you can just use roots.
Yep. And it's kind of on the keyboard. It's a little harder than on a piano or a guitar. But if you think about a little bit more emphasis on that second one, maybe.
Just slightly, yeah.
And all your syncopation is in your right hand.
That's
really.
right. So this is the important part that our friend Elio Alves, amazing Brazilian jazz pianist, also available in the Piano Access Pass, by the way, is that syncopation, right? All the syncopation, all the 16th notes on there, all in the right hand. Like Elio would even do things like.
Yeah.
Instead of,
No.
not that.
Not needed.
And you can connect some dots here too. You can do little quarter note things
Yeah.
like on this. Yeah. with just simple half notes.
Yeah. And what's so great about that, you're laying such a great foundation of the groove down, even without guitar, even without drums, and even without, and all that stuff.
It's literally, I don't
think you left the half note that whole time.
No, I've added a couple of quarter notes, but you don't even have to you can just stay on those roots. Romero did this whole lesson about, sometimes on the guitar you just run out of real estate to do root 5.
Right.
So you could do this whole song just on like, you wouldn't want to perform it the whole way like this, but this is the feel, right? And then when you add in some roots,
great about it, it's that as you're hearing, what I'm kind of trying to do is like almost if I was playing with a guitarist, is that when that groove is being laid down as piano, you can just go up here because the bass is taken care of. We talk about the 3 zones.
Yeah.
You've got the syncopation, and you're doing a lot of active stuff with the 8th notes. That frees things up for me to still play within the groove, but floating above the groove. So I'm in the groove, but I'm floating above it in terms of rhythmically, and then even some melodic things and stuff. It's a great feel for that.
Good
and it
stuff.
all starts at the bottom.
It all starts at the bottom.
Yep.
They go high, you go low.
low.
Be the opposite of Michelle Obama in this regard.
That's right. Good. Well, there's a lot more we could talk about bass. Maybe we'll do another episode if folks like this.
I can't believe this is our first bassline episode. It seems ridiculous.
I know. But I think we've really, set a foundation and we really set the framework and the base of something great to come later.